Hello everybody and welcome to the first Chromatographic, the show in which I, Matt, the GameBoyle, take you through the highs and lows of the Game Boy Color library, one card at a time. To kick it off, we're going to look at one you probably don't know. It's Merlin. Ah, the early 2000s. What a time to be alive. 2001 in particular didn't end up with us outwitting AI like Kubrick and Clark had predicted, and I had yet to be disappointed by the year 2005's lack of transforming robots. 2001, as it turns out, was a pretty solid year for most forms of media. The first Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings films stormed the box office, absolutely walking over everything else to claim the top spots for the highest grossing films of the year, with the GameCube, Xbox and Game Boy Advance being released and setting the stage for the 6th generation of consoles. What exactly does the year 2001, movies with wizards, and the 6th generation of consoles have in common? Well, a little known developer called RFX Interactive, of course. In the year of Game Boy Advances and magical movies, the little French studio released a game for the GBA called Lady Seer, which I absolutely loved to death despite some flaws. Years later, while searching to see if the game's unreleased sequel, Sword of Seer, had made its way onto the internet, I discovered that the studio had released several other games before shuttering its doors in 2003, one of which was called Merlin. Being a relatively late Game Boy Color release, and a European exclusive to boot, you can be forgiven if you've never heard of it. But this game, starring everyone's favourite royalty-free conjurer, made its way onto the Game Boy Color a few months before the great Lady Seer saw its GBA debut. As you might expect, it's an action platformer in which you need to get Merlin from one end of a stage to another, beat a boss, and progress. The story is essentially that a dragon awakens and upsets the balance of the world, so it's up to Arthur's right-hand mage to sort things out. Cue a jaunt through stages spread across the world's 5 realms in order to restore peace by pressing A to jump and B to fire at enemies. As simple as this sounds, there's actually a little bit of depth to Merlin. For each successful enemy kill, the magic meter at the bottom of the screen begins to fill. With a body count of 6, Merlin gains the ability to take a hit without dying. 12 kills gets you a powered up attack, and 18, well, the serious kind of magic that one would expect from the world's best mage. Though getting hit even once will see this bar reset to 0. Scattered around the levels are 3 different types of spell that further alter your magical abilities. A blue, standard fireball, a green chaos magic, and a purple, weaker but multi-directional shot. These power up into a better fireball, a heat-seeking fireball, and a quicker multi-shot respectively. At the highest levels, however, they'll also allow Merlin to nuke the screen with blue and green, and even throw a Kamehameha with a purple. It's the best! Another surprise for me was the fact the game isn't just platforming segments, but you'll often find yourself taking control of Merlin in a side and vertically scrolling shooter levels, which are a lot of fun, even if the stages can be a little bit hard to read because of the level of detail. This is a bit of a luxury problem to have with Merlin. The game is, after all, one of the best looking on the system. However, due to how flat the GBC's palette can make games look, you might find yourself being confused by what is a threat and what isn't. The only real problems I have with Merlin are thus. The lesser of these is the quality of the music varies quite a bit from great to bland. That problem, much like the level of detail issue, isn't really a deal breaker. The bigger problem is that in 2001, a game was still being made with what I call European jump syndrome. To jump forward, you will need momentum. It's not enough to simply jump up against a wall and float through it Mario style. No, you actually need to time your jump to get through the gap. You do pick this up very quickly, however, it does make some of the later stages' jumps more needlessly complicated than they need to be. Fortunately for cases like this, the game offers 3 lives but unlimited continues, so you can try and try again until you master the trickier sections. However, while playing on practice mode, i.e. normal difficulty, you'll find a fairy to mark the halfway point of the levels, allowing you to butt your head against the more difficult sections a little. In pro mode, these pit stops are removed and death sees you start the level from scratch, not to mention completely removing passwords. Trust me, ignore pro mode. The only difference is a slightly altered ending, and let's be honest, the story isn't the reason we're here. Though some of the post-boss dialogue through the filters of a jaded adult like myself can sound a little creepy. Speaking of bosses, they, much like the game's music, are a mixed bag. You'll fight most of them in side-scrolling mode. However, the big bad dragon will challenge you to take him on using the more fiddly platforming controls that will see you jumping from his claws and, well, because of the jump mechanics, is a little bit of a pain in the ass. The boss sprites themselves are huge and for the most part look amazing. I just wish there was a little more variety in how you kill them rather than just spamming your fireballs. There's not a lot more to say about Merlin. It's a nice game that nobody talks about because it's not the greatest thing on the system. However, if you don't mind the jump physics, you're more than likely going to have a good time with it. And at the end of the day, isn't that all we're after? The platforming and shooting sections are competent, the game looks great, and its music can be at times pretty whimsical. The game also features a password system for pick up and play gaming, though honestly, unless you're playing it on the go, you can probably beat it in one sitting without much trouble. Is it the most magical thing you'll ever play? Not likely, but it's still pretty solid. If you see it around, be sure to pick it up, because just by plugging this game into your Game Boy, you're sure to conjure up a good time. And that brings us to the end of the first Chromatographic game, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed. If you have, please let me know down in the comments down below. If this is your first video, check out some of the others on the channel. But until next week, where we'll be back with a good old black and white biographic. Game on.